send us your questions and scenarios that you want to help us work out. Kind of like when you're in school and you had math problems that were story problems. Well, we are going to help work through the solutions that you send us. And if there's something that's beyond our skill level, we have people for that.
Yeah. You see, guys, I'm looking around making sure everything is good to go, but we
Yes.
want to jump right into it because we know statistics have shown people don't like intros and this
They
long
don't.
stuff.
Y'all
They
don't
just want
like
to
that.
jump right into it. So we're going to just jump right into it. How about we start out? You want to do the scenario first and then just give them something to meditate on?
Yes.
How
Yes.
about we
Let's
do that first?
Okay. Let's do that first.
The questions came from some awesome people in the community. Miss T, we thank you so much for
Her
sending in your
name
Miss
is
Raquel.
Her name is Raquel.
Thank you so much for sending in the questions. We appreciate it so much. Renee was telling me about the conversation and how much you guys enjoyed each other and talking to each other.
Because we is flesh of the same
appreciate
flesh.
We see you saying, hey.
Hey, Raquel, how are you? So glad you're here.
So we're going to start out with a little story time. So we paraphrasing this a little bit. I'm just going to read it just like it kind of came, but I had to just not clean it up, but just kind of straighten it out just for brevity for the sake of the conversation. So we're going to start it out with story time because we want you guys to start thinking about how would you answer this question. We're going to answer it, but we want you guys to think about some advice that you would give to a friend who gave you this scenario. I wish I had like some story time music, but no, that's Jeopardy. But
okay, I will give you some story time. I'll give you some when we do the video.
Okay, yeah, we'll put story time behind this in the video.
Yes.
Okay, so you can exchange this out because this was a guy propositioning a lady. So,
yes.
So you can swap it out because it could go either way. So a guy had offered to take me to dinner. He was supposed to come. He was supposed to cook, and we've been talking about it with each other weeks on the phone. So the person didn't give a definitive answer, or she didn't give a definitive answer saying, yes, we're going to do this until that day. It wasn't until the next day when he asked about the mid-afternoon time frame as far as about doing the dinner thing. So he asked her if you wanted what she wanted to eat and those things. And so she told him, gave it an order, just like that sound good to me. But, you know, there's always a but. When she got there, there was no food, not even wine, not even snacks, not even water. It's almost like 7:30 in the evening. So imagine if your day starting at 6. If your day is 7:30 and ain't nothing there, okay, you can start thinking about how would you do. So he asked, and then had the nerve. Well, it then asked, "Are you hungry?" But by the time you can tell, the mood is totally destroyed. You show up at 7 or 6, and you don't even have nothing ready to eat until 7:30. The person was completely turned off. She was turned off, and she was ready to go, and it showed all over the demeanor, you know. And so, needless to say, the visit and the date didn't last too much longer after that. And then had the nerve to say, "Do you still want to go out on Friday?" We let that marinate. So for the people that are already in here, you heard the story. So you think about it. You can put your comments in the chat. We'd love to see what you guys have to say about it.
Yeah.
But we also got some questions that we wanted to go over tonight. We've been giving you guys some things about premarital and marital and dating and all that kind of stuff. But we got a lot of response from the videos and things like that. So we got some of the questions. So
these questions came from one person. And if you guys want to have your own special personal show, you can too. Just send us your questions and your scenario.
Or even put them in the chat right now.
Yes.
We'll go right now.
Yes, and we'll do it right now as well.
Okay, so this is one that we see a lot, honestly, when it comes to when you first starting dating. And the question is, what are some of the conversations that you should not be talking about on a first date when you first meet somebody?
I thought that was a really important question. Because I think sometimes, it's different when you're dating when you're older. When you're dating when you're teenagers, it does not matter. You really don't have that much to share. But as we get older and we're dating in different stages of our life, you've lived some life. So you have some things that you kind of have to understand. We did an episode about boundaries. And again, we talk about boundaries are an inward swinging door towards us. Not that we're keeping people out, but that we're keeping ourselves back. And so when you think about boundaries, you just think about what will be too much for someone to know when they first meet you? You don't become vulnerable until trust is built.
I'm gonna throw one out there. I know a topic, because you think about it. This is the early stage. You're just meeting each other. You don't want to bring out. How about this one? Past relationships.
Yeah.
That's probably not a good topic, because you've seen it in the past where people will start talking about their exes, or they just broke up. If a lot of time has not passed, maybe you're already addressing some things that you probably shouldn't be talking about at this point, at this stage in the relationship. Asking some deeply personal, intimate question like how much money you make.
Yeah. Hi, how you doing? How much money you make?
That probably is not a good telegraph as far as about longevity of a relationship. Right. That's getting a little bit personal. How about this one? Politics.
Yeah.
Until you really get to know a person, you may not want to dive into a hot button topics. And it doesn't necessarily have to be which side of a stance that you take on. The whole purpose when you first meeting somebody is to get to know them.
Right.
So if you're just getting to know someone, you don't
want... But that has to be in levels.
Yes. Talk about the levels. Go ahead. Elaborate on that one.
So understanding that there's... The best way it was explained to me and it helped me to understand is that basically like the president. We know the president as the president. But his kids know him as dad. His wife knows him as husband. So it's the same person, but they don't all have the same level of relationships. So it's just important to understand that when you first meet someone, they're a stranger. Yeah. And so there are certain things you don't want to ask a stranger. And there are certain things you don't want to tell a stranger. And so it's just a matter of getting a feel for if you feel this is going to go beyond more than one date. And that's what the first date is, just to get to see if the first date is really just to see if there's any spark, if there's any chemistry, if there's any interest. You don't want to go beyond just you telling them all of your life secrets, all of your life story, and you just met.
It's important to have that compatibility. Let's just assume that you have gotten past, yes, I'm interested in visually, you are appealing to me, they're appealing to you, so you're actually going on a date. But these are things that the question is actually talking about, things that you should just kind of steer away from, those topics. Think about things that actually get you heated, when you're talking to somebody you do know very well. If you can't talk about your favorite sports team, maybe not want to bring that up. It's almost like you got to take it on a case-by-case basis, I would think, even when it comes to your own individual personalities and choices.
What I think would be really good, a good way to think of this is when you first meet someone, you're trying to get to know them. Then you want to get to know their likes and dislikes. Then you want to get to know their goals. Then you want to get to know their past. Then you want to get to know what their future goals are. So if you do it in layers like that, where you just don't start off with, hi, how you doing? What's your goals for the future? That's a little bit far. So it's you first trying to get to know the person. Then you're trying to get to know their likes and dislikes. Trying to get to know their interests. You're trying to get to know, just basically in the beginning, it's just trying to get to know things about the beginning of getting to know someone. You don't want to skip all the way to your past.
One thing that we always think about when we get new couples that we work with is we tell our couples now, you need to become a student of the person, of your significant other. Well, the same thing can be applied to even in a first date. You don't want to interrogate them, but you do want to. You should be curious. You do want to talk to them and find out what is interesting to them.
Right.
Where not that you're doing some like deep probative, background and secret investigative story trying to uncover, some mysteries of the world, but you do want to actually be curious about them and make them the center of their whole date.
Because people like to talk about themselves. And when you allow them to talk about themselves, then they should also then say, hey, well, what's your favorite color? What's your favorite, what's your favorite meal? Getting to know the person's likes and dislikes is basically something you want to do on the first date. You don't want to figure out, did they have childhood trauma? I mean, that's just, on the first date, you shouldn't be asking, to me, on the first date, you shouldn't be asking about their past because you don't even know the person. So get to know the person, before you start trying to figure out their past.
And if you got something that you want to chime in, throw it in the chat.
Please
We're watching it. We're watching
it in the chat. Put it in the chat.
I'll let you start this question out. How do you dismiss those uncomfortable, basically none of your business questions that you may get?
Well, one of the things that I learned to do, because I did hair for 28 years, and people will ask you questions that are very inappropriate. And so I learned how to ask, when people would ask me a question I thought was inappropriate, I would answer the question back with a question. Like, they say, well, is that
flipping a script on?
Yeah, is that your real hair color? Oh, are those your real teeth?
Yes, she did say that. I think in our world, where I'm from, the east side of Detroit, they would call that I'm capping on you, but I'm not gonna go down.
I'm only joking, but if you answer, I think sometimes it's easier to just answer a question with a question, put the question back on them. Well, how do you feel about that?
And maybe a better way to put it is deflect. Maybe deflect the question away from the topic, change the subject matter.
Yes.
And redirect the attention or the conversation, or you can even say
that's inappropriate. I don't think that's we're too early. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
I think it's probably that we're too early in our relationship for you to ask me a question like that. Just to be direct, to be clear.
One thing that we also teach our couples is using what's called I statements. Mm-hmm. When you are having a conflict or you have an issue with someone, it's always better to make it you problem.
Right.
It's a you problem, not a them problem.
Yeah.
I have a problem with that question. That seems a little bit too personal. I would really prefer that you didn't ask me something that personal.
I would prefer that you let us get to know each other before
a little bit better.
Like that.
So that's almost like another way of saying that's none of your business.
Yeah.
Without saying it that way.
Because you can say anything, but it's all about your tone, your word selection, and your body language.
Tell them about the garbage can.
One of the things that I learned is that if someone brings you a beautiful meal and they put it on the trash can, you probably wouldn't want to eat it. So that helped me to understand that I might have the right sentiment and the right words, but if I present it with the wrong tone, the wrong body language, and the wrong order of words, I realized I have to lead with my need and not with my concern or the problem. Because if you lead with your need, then again, I have a problem when this happens. So it's just a matter of just realizing that sometimes as us strong Black women,
let's just say strong women, period.
Yeah, but I can only speak about Black women because I am a Black woman. Is to understand that can be a benefit, and it can also be, it's a two-edged sword. You have to learn how, because a blade has two sides. Everybody don't need to get the sharp end of the blade. Sometimes you can just use the other end of the blade and push back without necessarily causing a major artery cut.
And I think sometimes it may even depend on your personality too. Some people who are, let's just call them, for the sake of this conversation we're having tonight, is type A people who are just straight, direct communicators. They would probably have no problem with telling people that's none of your business. But someone who is a little bit more reserved, more introverted, more quiet, they may kind of skirt around it. They may deflect. They may try to change the subject. They may try to even remove themselves from the conversation. If you're not in a one-on-one conversation, say if it's in a group setting, because the question really wasn't directed as a dating thing, but this would be applicable, I think, to any scenario that you may find yourself in.
One of the things the Lord really helped me with was, may the words of your mouth and the meditation of your heart be pleasing in my sight. I have to ask myself, are they going to say, oh, thank you, when I'm done saying it? Because it might be the truth. And my thing was, well, it was the truth. But making sure that you're giving the truth in love is really, really important. And that I think that when you have a strong personality, you have to make sure you're more conscious of not coming off hard or cold or short or rude.
Right. So I think that's enough.